those of us that put AI into our tool set are going to be able to do better and more work, and that is always worth something to people out there. Creative is going to be the live action of doing something. AI raises production value as opposed to taking jobs away. Creatives that have experience are necessary to help guide the AI tools. Our job is to understand all of the different AI tools and how to bring them together.
Welcome to the Growth by Creativity podcast, where we discuss the art of captivating storytelling, compelling design, and imaginative communication strategies through interviews and case studies with creative experts. Hope you enjoy and subscribe. So today, I'm super excited to be joined by Lucien Harriet, president of Mechanism Digital. Mechanism Digital is an award-winning visual effects, animation, and next-gen media production agency based in New York City. Some of Lucien's clients include WebMD and has worked on post-production and visual effects for recent films including Eileen with Anne Hathaway, Man and Witch with Christopher Lloyd, Moonshot for HBO. As an accomplished creative and technical director, he leverages AI technologies and advanced workflows to increase production value. Lucien, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Caroline. I am excited to be here. And thanks. I'm always excited to talk about new technologies, especially AI in our industry. So thank you.
Yes, absolutely. So am I. So Lucien, just to dive right in, how do you reckon Gen AI will affect the world of visual effects? And are there any big changes you're excited about in the industry's future?
Sure. Well, I think AI is affecting every industry, not just visual effects, but it has been affecting visual effects for quite a while. We've been using AI for a couple of years, although this last year has really been a record year where it's being included in so many different softwares, and the tools are developing. Every week, new tools are showing up. But ultimately, it's helping us to raise production value and do better work. Really, it's a wonderful tool where there's lots of different tools that we're using, and it's become a necessary tool for us to do the best work that we can. And I think all of our artists are excited about it. I know there's some concern, but we're more excited about it than concerned.
And so what are you guys excited about specifically? What is it about AI that is exciting you and your team?
The two main things are that it adds in sort of additional creativity or unexpected results sometimes in the beginning of a project, especially at the design stages of a project where we're trying to come up with ideas. And when we're generating ideas, it's our creative team is going back into their brains and thinking about all of the experience that they've had with past projects and other films we've seen. And we're trying to cobble together new ideas for a particular client, where there's a strategy involved, and basically throwing new stuff around and brainstorming stuff. Now, this is the old way of doing it. And now AI has been able to help us with that brainstorming process. It comes up with a bunch of ideas generated from a lot of what it knows from past works, whether that be films or graphic design or any creative aspect of the projects that we work on. And then as the experienced artists and creatives, we get the job choosing what makes sense and or steering some of the ideas that it comes up with into something that makes sense for the strategy of the project. So the initial creativity is sparking a lot of interesting new things that we didn't expect, and we can do them very, very fast. So that's great. And then on the other end, when we're actually doing the production, there's a lot of very labor-intensive work that we do. It's a lot of either rotoscoping, drawing around a person, or motion tracking, and there's a huge amount of hours and work that go into what we do that is now being helped by AI, and this can now work much faster and raise the production value for our clients. To be honest, that's a lot of stuff that these are artists doing this type of work, rotoscoping, but it's not something that we love to do. It's a necessary evil to be able to put in a background if you didn't have a green screen like I'm on now. And even when there is a green screen, there's always little bits and pieces that don't work out. We have to go in and hand paint that stuff. It's fine. The AI can have it. If they want that job, they can have it. And so there's a lot of these new tools that are popping up in all the different softwares that we use.
So a lot of folks listening in are marketers. So I think it'd be useful to maybe if you could explain on a high level, what is it that you guys do? Like what is post-production? What is, all of these sort of VFX that, if you could elaborate a little bit more on what that is and why it's useful, that would be super helpful.
Absolutely, sure. So one end of our work is entertainment, and that might be movies and films where we do visual effects and we'll create digital backgrounds or remove a microphone in a shot or add a digital extension to a building. On the marketing side, that is for sales and education. We do a lot of work in the medical or the healthcare industry, creating 3D animation inside the body, similar to a Fantastic Voyage where they go down inside the body and they're exploring cells and viruses and seeing how these things interact. And then the new research that's come from the the pharmaceutical companies that now is also taught to the doctors, because doctors have to have this continuing medical education. So we're sort of a piece of the puzzle between the research from the pharma companies and the or their laboratories and the doctors that have to learn. And we create videos to help explain very complicated concepts to many, many people. So, right, one or a little handful of scientists explain it to us, and then we explain it to thousands of people. That's on the sort of corporate pharma side. We might also do TV commercials. The Duracell battery that slams together, that hasn't been a real battery in many, many years. That's a digital battery that slams. And so we create 3D animation or some interesting magical effects that happen around it. So our work tends to be more 3D animation and compositing work. Then we work with the editorial and the color correct people, usually from another company, and we handle a lot of the complicated effects. We're also doing more interactive type work, so AR and VR, these sort of XR experiential type projects. And this can be either at a medical congress or a booth, or it can be an app that's sent out. And this is typically 3D animated objects and models that are brought to life, and then you can interact with them. And they typically are teaching something or marketing or doing sort of both at the same time. So our work is very detailed and very technically, usually technically complicated 360 spherical videos, and sometimes we just have to remove logos or add something into it. And then back to AI, that's just helping us with all of these tools, because every software company out there is adding AI into the workflow. Our job is to understand all of the different AI tools and how to bring them together, because that's still, all those tools are not being put into one single place. They're sort of disparate and all over the place. And our current talent is being able to bring those together. I'm sure that's going to change in the future, but we're still going to have to rely on our experience, our expertise and understanding of the strategy and what the client needs. AI doesn't understand that yet.
And Lucien, in terms of the creative process, because yes, I know we're talking about AI, but I think it's important to also understand the creative process, you know, the production of things, how they get done in the first place, right? Could you give us a brief sort of 10,000-foot view from start to finish? What are those key milestones in a project, and where in those milestones do you foresee leveraging AI?
So we have a very rigid design process that we use for all of our projects, whether it's entertainment or marketing or interactive. So there's there's four major phases, which is the design, the build, the motion, and then the finishing. And at the beginning, the design phase, we break this into some sub phases. So this would be mood boards. Mood boards is where we present a bunch of ideas to the client. After the client gives us their creative brief, we present a bunch of ideas that might solve that brief. These are usually swipes that come from the internet. We would just go to Google and type in, I think we're going to go with this techno cowboy look, and we're going to go with another retro film noir look. And these need to be on brand. And this is where our experience of strategy comes in. But we present ideas that we think may make sense for the client. The client comes back to us. They look at these mood boards. We go over them with the client, and they start making comments about what they do and they don't like about these mood boards. And this helps us to elevate our conversation so that we're all talking about the same thing. Sometimes clients come and they're like, well, we want this sort of edgy, cool look. And we're not really sure what that means. We have an idea of what that means. But when we put this into mood boards, what we think it means, and then they respond to it, we make sure that we're actually talking about what is edgy cool? What does that mean? And in fact, sometimes when they tell us things they don't like, that's more important than when they tell us things that they do like. We say, okay, we're going to avoid that. So we go through the mood boards. They talk about what they do and don't like. Sometimes we'll put them all together. Or what they like about different things, and build a new mood board. Sometimes they just choose a mood board. That's kind of the mood of it. Even though we swiped all this from Google, or now we generate a lot of this stuff using AI. AI is kind of like you type in what you want, and it gives it to you, similar to the way you type in a Google search, and it would give you something. So we're not going to use those images directly, but this is to help us elevate this conversation, so we're all talking about the same thing. So once we have the mood boards, and we know what it's going to look like, this also may include some fonts, so they can choose what fonts they like. Is it a big bold font? Is it a serif font? Obviously, it needs to work with their branding guide, but each project has its own little style to it. So then we take those mood boards, we come back to the studio, and we work on a style frame. This is still within the design process. The style frame is going to be an image of what the keyframe of that animation or that visual effect or that video is going to look like. And it's going to look like it was lifted directly out of the video. If it was a show open, a title sequence for a TV show or a web episode or something, it would probably be the final landing frame of that title. So everybody can decide if they like it or don't like it. So we present this. The client will give us some notes. We'll make some revisions. We might go through this a couple of times until we get it exactly right. It's going to have all the colors. It's going to have the font. It's going to have the overall look and composition of that final frame. And then once that is approved, then we know we can move into the probably there's also mixed in there, there's a bit of a storyboard process. So we are seeing what a final frame looks like, and also the storyboards, which these are thumbnail sketches of the sequence of the animation and how it resolves, or how it tells the story. The storyboards we can also then put into what we call an animatic, which is very often a scratch track, voiceover scratch track, using and then using the storyboard in an editing timeline, we can see how the story unfolds over a period of time. This might be 5 seconds, it might be 5 minutes. Different projects require different things. The scratch track, we used to talk into the microphone based on a script, which sometimes comes from the client, sometimes we help to write it. We no longer talk into a microphone as a scratch track. Now we just generate it with AI. There's all these AI voiceovers. 11 Labs is one of them that does a pretty good job. You can choose the voice and the style of voice and sort of the emotion of the voice as well. And this helps us to time the storyboards in the animatic to see if the story makes sense. Are we spending too long on one of the images or not long enough? We might even throw that final style frame in there if it's a title sequence. That's typically the end. And that AI voiceover, it's amazing how many times the client is like, well, that's done, right? It's finished. We don't even need to do it again. So I feel bad for a lot of the voiceover people that are not famous voices like Arnold Schwarzenegger. You can't use his voice without his permission, or licensing it. But if it's some other voice that nobody really needs to know who that is, then very often that AI voiceover might actually become the final. And the nice thing about it is you can change a word and rerun it, and it'll automatically replace that word. And we don't have to go back and do another pickup session in the audio booths, which can be expensive because you now need to hire the voiceover artist again and the audio engineer, and edit it together in post-production. So unfortunately, I think that's going to put quite a few voiceover people out of work. But that's become much faster, and the production value, and now we can even do it in multiple languages fairly easy with that. So that was all the design process. Once those phases are approved with a couple of iterations, then we move on to the build. And if it's a 3D animated project, which often they are, we do a lot of 3D animation. We build out all the 3D models if there's sort of a background environment or some characters. Once the build is done, we may or may not show this with the client. We might just go quickly to a motion phase where we start doing the rough motion of the animation. Again, this could be characters walking around. AI is helping with the character animation as well. We haven't used that so much, but now you can use a mobile phone and record somebody's motion in real life and apply that to a character in your video, in your animated video. This may be fine if you have somebody who's really good at moving. You probably still need to hire somebody who's a dancer or moves, or an actor that moves well. And it also doesn't do animation like cartoon, what we used to call Tex Avery stretch and squash animation. Everything is very realistic in terms of humans, and this works really good for training videos, corporate sort of run-of-the-mill training corporate videos we do a lot of, but you probably wouldn't use it for a fabulous Coca-Cola commercial. So it also, we're seeing it become very popular for a lot of the corporate work, which there's so much corporate work out there, a lot of stuff nobody's ever seen because it's all behind closed doors at a conference. It's not the stuff that plays on television during the Super Bowl. So now that's the motion that goes through a couple of iterations until we're happy with that, and then we'll do a final render, which is the finishing phase, which also includes any compositing, if we have to do any of the green screen or rotoscoping, which AI is helping with. Color correct, even AI, you can choose a film. Somebody says, I like the color of the film The Joker. You can actually pick a frame from The Joker and apply it to your project, and it can make it look kind of like the Joker. This is you can't apply a look of a night shot and apply it to a day shot and expect it to look the same way. But it's helped to dial in those color corrects, which used to take artists with a lot of talent. Now, whether or not whether the Joker look actually works for your medical video, that's a whole nother question, and that's the strategy that we need to consider from experience in our creatives and what they know. So. But also even editing, like when we are talking here, if I say a bunch of ums and buts and uhs, it can actually cut that stuff out automatically. So again, that probably wouldn't be used for film editing, high-end feature films, but it's very useful for interviews and corporate training videos, which is what a lot of these companies sort of run on. We love the films and we love doing the high-end, high-profile stuff, but in reality, we're also doing a lot of other things which are considered lower because they're corporate. But you know what? We get a lot more creative in those projects than we do in the films, and so we love those projects and we really get excited about them and collaborating with the clients.
So you mentioned there were 4 phases: design, build,
motion, and finishing.
and finishing. And so what is finishing? Is that the color
So
correction you were talking about?
the finishing is the rendering. We and adding in all the shadows and the reflections and the color correction and the editing and adding in the voice and the music. We can now generate music with AI. We haven't really done that very much, but currently it's fairly easy to go to a stock agency website and find some music that you like. But you know what? Next time we do that, we're probably going to start doing more and more AI, and that stuff is going to start to get built into some of our editing softwares. Currently, we have to go out to another website, and so many of these tools are actually web-based, and that's an interesting change that's happened in the last year. Is that you used to have to download and have this big software package on your computer, and you had to have a strong computer. But now it's all becoming so cloud-based that you just need to log into a website, make a request, and all that computer power is back in the cloud, and it sends you something. And you usually have to pay like a licensing or per month or per minute. Often these tools actually have free versions. They might have a watermark or low res, but it's so the again, music and the mixing, even sort of mixing stuff, is now becoming AI assisted, which again, you can look at it as, is it possibly taking away somebody's job, or is it just making somebody's job better and easier and faster, and they can actually spend more time polishing and making something look better? So we think it raises production value as opposed to taking jobs away. All of our artists are still working. They have new tools to play with.
You mentioned leveraging AI for voiceovers and, now for music. Are you concerned about the licensing aspect of it? Like, even if the place where you're getting this, is legit, are you still concerned that, sometime down the line this could sort of come back and there could be some legal issues?
I'm not a lawyer, and so I can't make any legal recommendations. Personally, I'm not concerned. I know that there will be laws that are created around this, and those laws, I assume, will be fair and allow people to use them, but also allow the people who created the original IP to keep their licensing. But I think it's going to allow a lot more artists to have access to be able to create amazing works. As long as you're not stealing something directly, it's sort of like sampling with music. There's a certain amount of music you're allowed to sample to make a new song, and the sampled music, I think, is fun because it harks back to that old song that gave you an emotion. But is it 4 bars? I forget what it actually is, where you can use, and it's okay. And I think there's going to be something similar that happens, or maybe in the blockchain, every piece of creative IP that's out there will have some blockchain metadata in there. And if you generate an AI image, which is 0.1% of this piece of art and 0.3% of somebody else's art, that somehow money goes back to those people. I don't know if that's sort of like the Spotify model or something. Hopefully it's something that helps money go back to the artists and not to the reps and the lawyers necessarily. Because this stuff should all be automated. Nothing against reps and lawyers, but there's a lot of additional monies that are spent that can all be automated under the hood. Creative is going to be the live action of doing something, not necessarily the image that was created. Actual painting, maybe painting will come back. The classics will all come back. People playing music, people painting, because it's going to be so easy just to generate music or to generate an image. The live action of doing is what's going to be beautiful.
Yeah, that's actually a really, really interesting thought. You mentioned that, a lot of the AI tools are on the cloud. I'm wondering, a lot of the tools you use to do the work you do, right, are on your computer. Have you seen any AI updates with the sort of same old programs that you've been always using? Like, have you seen updates, for example, if you're using Adobe, or like, have you seen enhancements on that front?
Yeah, so Adobe is still one of these programs you have to download and use it locally. I think they'll probably change their model soon. The Adobe definitely had some great advantages. Photoshop has something called generative fill, where you can select an object and tell it to fill that object, and you can let it make up its own thing, or you can tell it in a text box what you want to actually put in there. So it'll enter objects into your scene that have the correct lighting, the correct angle, the correct perspective. It's really quite amazing. You can also extend an image. If you wanted this image to be larger, we could put this into Photoshop and uncrop it. And so the cropped edges are out here now, and it will create more of the room that doesn't exist. Usually these tools give you 3 options, and you get to choose the one you want or tell it to run it again. So Photoshop is amazing. After Effects is starting to do the same thing in motion. So these AI tools are now being incorporated into some of these age-old tools. Maya is our 3D animation tool. That one, we're still waiting, but pretty soon you'll be able to generate textures using AI. So if I want a brick texture, say, no, I want that texture to be more rough. No, make it more red. No, make the bricks bigger. No, make the bricks, and so you can type in what you want, as opposed to we used to have to go out and find photography or actually take photos and put them in. And these tools are going to be in Maya soon. I'm surprised they're not yet. Maybe they are, and I just haven't seen them. But we typically go out to another website, so a texture making website, make those requests. It's an AI generative website. These textures are also tileable, so the one side of the image is seams up with the other side of the image, so you can repeat this over and over again like a brick texture across a whole wall. So you only need a small patch of bricks and you can make an entire brick wall. There's this combination of being able to use tools and different tools together, but the big companies are all moving as fast as they can to incorporate AI tools, so they are not competing with all of these browser-based tools that are popping up all over the place that create 3D models, that create background images. And it's a full-time job just trying to keep up with this stuff. I've sort of established myself as the company's person to research AI, and instead of watching TV at night, I spend hours just looking at all the new AI stuff and testing it a little bit, and then I bring it back to my staff. And we have something we call New Tech Fridays, where we talk about all the new technologies and where it might be used in our pipeline and our workflow to benefit our clients.
In terms of your go-to AI tools, like, do you have a list of your top 10 tools that you're currently leveraging in your pipeline?
Sort of this brainstorming in the beginning with images. We use something called Stable Diffusion. This is similar to Midjourney, which you hear a lot about. Midjourney is good too. I don't use that one as much, but Stable Diffusion creates images. They're now starting to create video as well. The video is not quite there yet. The images are beautiful. And the images, they're always amazing, but it may not be exactly what you want. And sometimes we have to create 100 images before we actually have the image that we're happy with. So there's this huge ratio. So it's a different, instead of painting the exact image you want, you create 100 of them and you pick the one you want, or you pick one that's close and then you can ask it to modify it. Something DALL-E is also a similar tool to Stable Diffusion. Typically in Stable Diffusion, you write out a prompt. It's a whole bunch of descriptive words, and you paste it in, and it gives you an image. And then whatever you don't like about that image, you can add some words or remove some words or change some words in your prompt and re-enter it, and it regenerates the image. And that's one way of working. But now DALL-E, you can put in a prompt of what you like, what you're looking for. Just describe it the same way you would describe to somebody that you're going to have design something. Whatever you don't like about it, you can say, no, change it this way. Make the car red. And it will go back and it will regenerate the picture, let's say with a green car, now with a red car. And instead of re-entering that prompt all the time, which we're often sort of copying and pasting from a text file, now it will actually change the car and say, well, how about a darker red than that? Okay, now make the car look like it's going fast. And you can almost have a conversation with it as you would with an artist. So that's a nice tool. DALL-E, we weren't expecting it to sort of move so quickly, but because it has the open AI and this chatability, and the creative generative ability together has become a very strong tool. We're also using something called Ideogram. Ideogram is pretty good at making text. Ideogram.com. You go there. I think these are some people from Google, and it's another image generation tool that is better at making big, bold 3D text. Some of these other Midjourney doesn't do a great job creating text. Stable Diffusion doesn't do great text, but this Ideogram does. A tool we've been using for many years is Topaz. This is a tool for upresing images, removing noise, and stabilizing shaky footage. They've been around for years, and they've always been using AI. And it's funny that they're sort of the quiet company that we use whenever we need to upres something. If somebody gives us some low-res cell phone footage, and we can upres it into much higher. There's a company called RunwayML.com, and that has a bunch of tools, video creation tools, green screen. In the future, we're not going to have green screen anymore. The AI is just going to figure it out and remove the human. You say, no, I remove the human from the picture, but keep the plant or keep the dog or whatever else is in the screen, and you can actually have this conversation with it rather than the laborious process of rotoscoping or picking the green. If I was shot on one background and you decided that you didn't like the background, we could now swap it out with AI. That's not perfected yet, but that's starting to happen. And Runway is an interesting tool or collection of tools. They have color correction and editorial tools, and I think they're trying to compete with Adobe. And we're seeing that now they're licensing their technology to some of these other AI enhanced tools that create content. Microsoft Designer. So Runway ML has the ability to create images and even now video, AI video. And this is now, they're licensing their technology to be used inside Canva. So if you create some layouts with some titles and videos, or you want a background image, you can ask for a generated image. Canva doesn't have that technology in it, but it has licensed the ability from Runway. So a lot of these companies are licensing. Stable Diffusion is one of the big ones that sort of started out, like $100 billion or whatever they're worth. They're licensing their technologies to a lot of other companies that are using it. So if you like Lenza was the app where you could take a few photos of yourself and then you could recreate professional looking headshots of yourself. But it's effectively taking those images of yourself, learning a bit about what you look like, and then applying all the professional photography and lighting and clothing and backgrounds that it knows from the Stable Diffusion library, and it puts them together to make it look like you are now in that place or wearing those clothes. So we're seeing a lot of these companies starting to work together in licensing, and that's how they pay back, because the Stable Diffusion learning model, I think, cost $100 million for them to learn all of the images that it did. And this is how they're getting paid back, is licensing it to these other companies.
Are there any other tools that come to mind?
Other tools that we use for AI, Premiere now has some really great audio cleanup tools. It's helping to remove background noise. We do a lot of Zoom videos with doctors, and there might be an ambulance in the background that goes by, and we can remove that. That's pretty amazing. Other image models, there's something called Mage, which uses Stable Diffusion also, but it also has some additional tools called control nets where you can add in other images to influence your AI images, which is pretty amazing. There's some new AI generative softwares coming out that can generate 3D models, which is impressive that it can do that, but we're not excited yet about those 3D models. And usually a 3D model for us needs to be very specific. We'll show the inside of a jet engine and how it was built. And the AI generation of these parts doesn't really work so well. Make a model of an airplane. It does an okay job with the airplane. They're a little bit low res, but a lot of times what we need is very, very specific. We're showing how the sound waves work inside the Bose radio. And that's and because the Bose radio has not been published, the inside of it has not been published out there for these learning models to learn. The AI gen stuff doesn't know anything about what the head looks like. So we typically have to get CAD files from the company in which they actually build this stuff and rebuild it and then fly a camera through it. So it's not replacing everything. When we need a texture of what plastic might look like, then we can generate what the texture might look like, which is nice. Or sometimes it helps us to sort of multiply out many models in a scene. If we needed to put trees everywhere, now instead of placing those trees manually, AI can sort of help us do that. You talked a little bit about audio. So 11 Labs, again, is a great website for generating
audio, voiceovers. You can also put in a video into 11 Labs that is in one language, and it will output it in another language using
the same voice. It sounds like the same person is now speaking another language.
Como prueba, puse el video de Gangnam Style, Wolfgang Gangnam Style.
What the heck is this guy saying? I don't know. I put the video in there, and it made him rap in English now, and he's singing about fish and coffee. It's the bizarre.
That's so funny.
He still says Gangnam Style because Gangnam is a place, and it doesn't translate that, or it's a particular religion, I forget. And so that one line he continues to say, but all the other Korean words actually get translated. I put that on my LinkedIn because this stuff is so much fun. I love to share this stuff out on my LinkedIn. And it's just mind-boggling. I mean, nobody wants Gangnam Style in English, but just to see how it works. And it removes his voice from the music, translates it to the other language in his voice, and then mixes it back in with the music again, and puts it back onto with the music and the voice, and then puts it back into the video and outputs the video. It would normally take an artist many hours to sort of cut between all of these slices between the music and the words and the syllables, but that's tedious, and so now AI is helping to reduce a lot of that tedium. We can focus on the creative style stuff now. So, but we'll also see a lot of that fall down to consumers, and consumers are going to be able to experiment and play the same way we're all able to use like Snapchat filters and use 3D stuff that used to have to be a 3D artist, and now you don't. So we're seeing the democratization of all of these tools down to consumers that want to generate content for their Facebook page or their Insta account, and so we're going to see a flood of content, maybe a lot of mediocre content, but definitely a flood, and we'll all get better at it. It's as a whole, the people of this world have gotten a lot better at generating content than we were 50 years ago, right? We've all learned so much, so it's just elevating everybody in this content creation, but there will always be people that specifically study it and are experts in strategy and helping the client understand what they need. It's going to sort of shift around where all of the creatives work and how they work. We're designing less, and we're now being more quality control and choosing. But now it's sort of elevating all of us to be a little bit more senior in our creative positions, as opposed to what we used to call the paint monkey that used to have to paint out everything frame by frame by frame by frame. That was the stuff that we had to do when we first got into the industry, because that was the low level job. Well, now we're giving that job to AI, and we've elevated everybody's jobs now at this point.
So if you could sort of summarize the value of a creative profession, and obviously creative professionals, there are many, they're all different specialties like yourself, like us. If you had to summarize where the value of a professional comes in, like how would you explain that to clients? Like, no, you can't just use AI. There's a level of skill that even if it's not the full-on production work that you need in order to get that outcome. Because yes, everybody is going to produce more content, but I think there's also going to be a lot of mediocre content as well. So how do you explain that to clients, that you do need to pair AI with a creative professional? Like, what are your thoughts on the roles of each, the AI component and the creative professional component?
I think this is going to how creatives work will evolve over the next few years. But right now, creatives that have experience are necessary to help guide the AI tools to give us what we need to apply to the strategy. So there's a lot of experience that the creatives have in understanding what sells well and what doesn't sell well, or what gives a positive message, or what feels salesy or not salesy. And these, the tools that experienced creatives bring to the table, because AI, it can create lots of images really quickly, but which is the right image to use, and which is the right image for you, that for a very specific company, right? It might be a different company for New York City taxis as opposed to the Ubers or something, just because they're both cars that take you places, they have a different strategy. So going forward, I think maybe AI will start to understand some of this, and so we'll have to see where the creatives move to. I think will always be necessary. There will be a lot of, in the future, personalized content. I would see a different piece, a different commercial than what somebody else would see. Because this stuff can be generated very quickly, and if I've been profiled based on my my web searches and the stuff that I like, it's going to show me a different commercial at the at the Super Bowl halftime than it would somebody else. Now, when it shows a room of 10 people, I'm not sure, or how does it know who's in front of it? But a lot of the content that we're going to see, it's going to show up in our glasses. We're going to, once we get headsets, right, we're going to get those phones out of our pockets. This is going to feel like such an archaic thing. And that stuff will be personalized to us. And that's going to be based on, again, profiling something, or there's also likes. Things are going to be voted up and voted down. So there might be a lot of content for the masses where there's 2 versions or 10 versions generated, and the one that gets the most likes is the one. Now they make a slight change on that one, and then they do an A/B test, and then that gets voted up or voted down based on either somebody clicks a like or somebody watches it longer than somebody else watched it. And this is all going to be when millions or billions of people are consuming this content, and so all this voting is sort of going to happen in the background, and that's going to affect YouTube, right? The more popular YouTube videos end up at the top, and they show up in your list based on your profile and the number of likes that they get. And I think this is going to happen with lots of content. It could be TV commercials, it could be the way movies are made. Video games are going to change. Video games will no longer be a bunch of pre-recorded voiceovers and pre-made models. They're going to start generating real time, and you'll be able to have a complete conversation with a non-player character for hours if you wanted to talk about their background and their childhood, stuff that nobody would have ever recorded back in the recording studio. But again, back to the creatives, I think we're still a very important part of the puzzle. What happens in 10 or 20 years? I'm not really sure. Just going to try to do the best job I can and ride this wave, this exciting wave of AI, in a responsible way.
Actually, in terms of keeping up with all of these new tools, how are you staying on top of everything AI? Where do you go?
So yeah, again, it can be kind of like a full-time job sometimes. I follow a few blogs. There's one guy, Dan B. Goldman, and he puts out a daily blog of about 10 or 20 things. And just to go to look at all of these takes a long time. Some of them are very technical. Some of them are you have to download some code and try it, because he's sort of on the cutting edge. We actually have to install something to try it because it hasn't yet become a web page that's very usable yet. There's some other blogs, but he's probably one of the big ones. There's following people on LinkedIn. People are often sharing things. I follow a couple of hashtags it's like AI art or AI generative something, and these people have now ended up in my feed. There's also YouTube channels. There's a lot of those are the easiest to most approachable, where people are talking about the greatest things in AI this week. If you type that into YouTube, there's 5 people that will pop up. Some of them are more technical, that are if you're into installing stuff, and some of them are more just like, wow, check this out, and they'll usually show you an example of what they did. They'll do a little test, or they just show you the example on the website, and they are out scouring the internet for new stuff. So there's lots of people to follow. And then whether or not you think something's worth experimenting with, that depends on what you need in your business, in your life, and what you do. A lot of people ask me, what's the best way? How should I learn AI? What's the best part of AI to learn if I want to get into it? And I always say, whatever it is that you know best, find the intersection between your expertise and AI, and there will be an intersection. Every industry is doing this. And if you learn AI in your industry, you're going to be the expert of your industry. You already are. And so now you're going to start to see where AI comes in, and you'll be able to understand those tools, and you'll be ahead of everybody else who's not implementing AI, and you'll become much more attractive or hireable, or I think those of us that put AI into our tool set are going to be able to do better and more work, and that is always worth something to people out there.
Yes, at the end of the day, we're competing in a very fast marketplace. So whether we like it or not, we do need to deliver at a faster pace, because we are competing with folks that are leveraging those tools in their tool set. So
I do want to say it doesn't always have to be faster. We try to make things better. There's always a level of finish, right? When we do a corporate video, that we spend a lot less time on that than we do on a feature film, right? Feature film, everything has to be, or a TV commercial, every pixel has to be perfect. Where the lower budget projects, we could do them faster, but we like to elevate them and make them better in the same amount of time and the same amount of budget. They just come out better. And my strategy and our strategy at Mechanism Digital is to just provide better content. And I think that's going to be more interesting to us, and that's going to keep our clients, and that's going to attract new clients. Doing stuff faster and cheaper sounds like a race to the bottom that I'm afraid of. So I want to keep trying to make things better, raise the production value of everything we do.
Lucien, thank you so much for your time today. If folks want to learn more about what you guys do, your company, or anything AI, where should they go?
Fantastic. Thanks for having me, Caroline. If you want to check us out, mechanismdigital.com is our website. That's a lot of the work that we do, anything from movies to medical. Check out what I'm doing. Follow me on LinkedIn. I'm always publishing interesting images and videos and stuff that I've seen, and sharing this with my network. And those are probably the main 2 places. Also on LinkedIn, I do about once a month, I give a presentation about AI, and you'll see those mentioned sometimes through LinkedIn, and they're free to join. I just talk about the latest, greatest stuff in AI and how it applies to our business in general, or more specifically. So, yeah, reach out. Love to talk to you. Talk about how AI can help. So I'm just so excited about this subject. Thanks for having me.